So today let's analyze a box plot and look into what that actually means. So here I have a box plot a graph with a bunch of box plots, which is the benefit of having a box plot is you're allowed to analyze multiple data sets at one time to then compare and contrast. And this is basically whether or not, let's say you work at a restaurant, and this is the average about whether or not they are smokers, the customers, whether it's smokers. So it's a yes is the dark color, no is the light yellow, and their bill. So how much they actually pay while they are there. And it's split up between Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If we look at just Thursday, if we notice that Thursday, both of them um, are kind of skewed, right? Because the line at the very end are longer here. So it is pointing, the longer line is pointing up. This means these particular box plots are more skewed to the right because the tail points to the right, and they both kind of have outliers, meaning there's probably some people that probably stuck around a little bit longer. Maybe there were some parties, right? Like a huge group of people, and one person decided to pay all the bill. So those would be more of the outliers in this case. But if I were to analyze it on Thursday, about the smokers and the non-smokers, they kind of pay kind of close about the same, right? There's an average, the medians are kind of closer. I mean, the non-smokers, yeah, definitely is a little bit higher, and they tend to pay a little bit, even though the smokers have a little bit higher, they also go a little bit lower. So it kind of evens out. So it's about the same. If you were to look for Thursday. Now let's look at Friday. Friday here, if you look at the smokers, being the darker color, they are still skewed to the right. Whereas now, um, the non-smoker, so this is right skew, right? And this would then be a left skew because now the non-smokers, you can see it's really tight at the top, and then there's a little bit of tail at the end. So this would be more of a left skew for the non-smokers. And so on Friday, it seems to be more beneficial to be, if you were a waiter or waitress, it seems to be more beneficial to be serving non-smokers. They seem to be paying more on the higher end compared to the smokers overall on Friday, on this particular Friday. Uh, let, let's look at Saturday. Well, on Saturday, if you notice, the Saturday, it looks like there's a little bit of skew, but not really, right? The lines tend to be pretty long at the ends, and it's both clustered together. Both on Saturday, if I were to describe the graphs, these would be normal. These would be normal distributions. So Saturday for both smokers and non-smokers, they would be normal. So it would be unimodal, centered more towards the middle. On average, the smokers pay more. It seems like you would benefit a whole lot more from serving a smoker on a Saturday compared to non-smokers. The non-smokers tend to pay less on a Saturday. Uh, but both of the graphs there would look normal, even though the line looks for the smokers looks a little bit longer overall. Like even though this tail here looks a little bit longer, it's not that much longer. And it's if I have to compare it, it's more. I mean, you could say it's a little bit of a skew, but if you said it was normal, it would look pretty normal too. Whereas The non-smoker is very normal. This is a normal graph. The whiskers are long and the center is very tight. So these are normal graphs. Um, let's look on Sunday. Sunday looks very normal or slight skew. The non-smokers definitely have a slight skew to the right. So this is a right skew, if I were to say, for the non-smokers. Smokers, you could call this normal. You could also call it a slight skew to the right, but not much. So both ways is pretty average. And then on Sundays, of course, you also get the benefit of the smokers pay more on Sundays. So if I were to analyze this graph, that I would say, well, overall, smokers tend to pay more, and definitely on the weekends. Notice how even the the box plots, uh, the interquartile ranges are higher on the weekends on Saturday and Sunday compared to that Thursday and Friday. So you make more money overall on the weekends too. Uh, another analysis is, let's talk about like what type of analysis would be better to compare, um, whether or not we want to use the IQR or the entire interquartile range, or we'd rather use the mean or the median to compare our numbers. Well, if we had a uniform or normal graph, right? So if we had a uniform or normal type of graph or something symmetric, so you can have a bimodal in this term. So if it's symmetric, um, then it's fine to just use our mean, right? Our means and medians, they work just fine um, as an indicator. However, if our graph is skewed, then it'd be easier for us to use the IQR. It's actually better to use the IQR if it's skewed, because the and possibly median, because the skewed will the IQR doesn't take into effect the outliers. The outliers are there, but it doesn't affect the IQR as much as it would a median, right? It would a means. If you had an outlier that, let's say, well, let's talk about salary, right? Let's say most of the people in a company, let's say everybody makes $40,000. Most people. However, you got this one CEO that makes $1 million, right? This little outlier skews, drastically changes the mean of everybody's salary, making everyone look like they make a whole lot more than they actually do. So that is how the IQR is most important in this case when you're talking about analyzing a graph. So if you're analyzing a graph, it's just skewed, use your IQR. If it's uniform, normal, it's actually better to use the mean. The mean is actually more helpful and more accurate in this case.